Good morning, Jim Morgan. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy Daly.
How are you today?
How are you doing?
Grand, thanks.
Paddy, I called this morning. You recall back a little while ago, a number of months ago, when there was a big fuss about Nalcor purchasing fuel through a broker over in some part of Switzerland.
Yeah.
And they found out that the fuel was not the right kind. It was contaminated with certain items in it, of course, and it caused all kinds of problems at the Holyrood plant. We're familiar with that. And then, of course, recently, the last month and a half, they announced that they were going to be hiring consultants to correct all these problems. And that's fine. And that's, I understand, it's ongoing now. But now the Nalcor announcement a couple of days ago that they're purchasing a generator, a 100-megawatt generator, a turbine generator for Holyrood. I did some checking into all of that, and lo and behold, I'm not very enthused with what they're doing. They're buying a generator from a company called Pro Energy, located in Missouri, USA. The generator has been sitting in a storage unit for about 5 to 6 years. Actually, the age of the generator is exactly 6 years. It's 6 years old. Now, if you've got a 6-year-old car sitting in your driveway, it's far from being a new car, even though it's not being driven. Now, the argument that they're using, and Nalcor, that, well, look, it's an older unit, yes, but it hasn't been used. The reason why it's not being used is because this company they're buying it from, Pro Energy, is a company that buys up generators and rebuilds them, puts on new parts, etc., and sells them again. Now, I don't know if this one is rebuilt or not, and nobody seems to know. The information from the Public Utilities Board, and I talked to Danny Dumarisk on this as well, and he's looked into it, that the generator is stored down there because it was bought by some other utility companies in hope to use it. I don't know why they didn't use it, but it's now for sale through this brokerage firm called a brokerage firm, Pro Energy. Now, having said that, they're paying $119 million. That's now confirmed by Nalcor publicly. Now, having said that, we looked at the prices of brand new, to buy from the manufacturer right now. You can get one for $46 million, the same type. And now add on to that, of course, the cost of installation, because the Pro Energy, to be fair to them, what they're doing, they're putting a contract in place not only to sell this with Hydro, sell the unit, but they're going to send up their own employees and going to install it. So I don't know what they'll be adding on the installation cost, what it would be. I can't say that, but I don't think it would cost $50 million. And that's what it would mean if you bought a new one to go get up to the level of the $119 million. So I'm saying that the Public Utilities Board should ensure that they have all details. I don't know if they've paid a purchase order, issued a purchase order approved by PUB, but my understanding it has been bought by Nalcor, and that's been confirmed by Pro Energy. So having said that, I don't know who's at fault here, but for someone to let this happen at a figure to the taxpayers of $119 million without getting full details, without an inspection of the unit itself, and that's not being done because the PUB is waiting for a report from so-called independent people to look at that unit and to give a report to Public Utilities Board. So all of this is really questionable. Why is this process going on that Nalcor can go out and spend money and do these kind of things without the approval or the ratification of people like the PUB? To me, it's troublesome because maybe that unit could come up here and not come here yet for a while. And tying into that, after checking into it myself, it needs an environmental assessment approval by the Newfoundland government. Now, having said that, that application was filed back in April, but to date, it's not been done. Now, maybe it's because of the loss of a minister in that portfolio recently. I don't know, but it's not done, and there's no guarantee to be done very, very, very soon. And so they can't do the necessary preparation work at the Holyrood plant up there until they get the environmental assessment, because they have to install a 2.4 million liter tank and foundation in order to put this new generator in. So it's all confusing to me as a taxpayer. I'm only a taxpayer. I can always voice my opinion on being a taxpayer, but these kind of things costing so much in difference what other means of getting it done is bothersome. And I don't know what the PUB will do on it. I assume they issued a purchase order. I understand they did to purchase the thing without, again, thorough inspection. And without having the necessary work carried out to make sure it is a good one.
We don't know that they haven't done a thorough inspection. And secondly, who spec'd out the $46 million unit that you speak of?
A supplier available in the U.S. right now. We checked it yesterday. Confirmed. $46 million plus anybody puts a contract in place with them like Nalcor has now done, plus their cost of installing it. Now, the Nalcor deal is $119 million, including installation.
Approved by the PUB.
Pardon?
Approved by the PUB.
The $119 million was approved. Yep. The money was approved some time ago, but the contract has not even been seen by PUB. They've been asking for it for weeks to get a copy of the contract from through Nalcor, and what I'm saying is they are facts. The PUB cannot obtain the details of the contract put in place, and they haven't seen the actual contract that was signed by, I assume signed, is already announced, by Nalcor. And add to that is the environmental assessment. All of these things got to be confusing to the average people who was following this, because it is confusing. I'm not that stupid. I mean, look at things from a perspective that it is, to me, rather silly and stupid when you can get something for $46 million, say, plus, but even you add on $20 million for the installation of it, and you go out and buy something $119 million, which is 6 years old. And it's not new. I don't care what anybody is saying about being new. This issue was discussed at the annual meeting. I put forward some questions on it, and people sitting with me did as well. And Mr. Martin kept on stressing the fact, well, it's a new unit, but I've been sitting in some kind of a storage area down in the USA. He sat at the border. That's all he would tell us at the time. And to me, it wasn't fair, because to get on like that, we know if it wasn't used, it wasn't used. But it was bought by this company, now selling it to Nalcor for the purpose of it was bought intentionally from a company who bought the generator, and then there was a utility company who bought it, and then they decided they weren't going to use it. So pro-energy, that's their role of business. That's the kind of business they do. They go out and buy generators from people who don't need them, whether they're used or not. If they're used, they rebuild and repair them, and they sell them again. Yeah,
if it's never been used, I mean, we can split the hair whether or not it's new. It's new to the next buyer, no matter if it's ever been flicked on or not. But I don't know why. I can't imagine, and I can't speak for Nalcor because I have no earthly idea about the background or the purchase or the contract or the inspection or the cost comparison to a $46 million new one plus installation, which will not be $50 million. We know that, so I don't have any answers to that, of course, nor does anybody. But the environmental assessment, my understanding is that's ongoing. That's what I was told.
It's ongoing since April.
Yeah, and that, I mean, for all intents and purposes, whether it be right or wrong, or people are indifferent to it, that's a rubber stamp coming on that one. I mean, you got to assume that's what's going to happen.
Well, I would assume there's nothing major to stop it.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question to bring forward. I wonder, will we get some further answers to your concerns, specifically on the turbine, when Mr. Martin addresses the media at 2 o'clock with an update on the costs of the project, because this is an associated cost, is in preparation for. Same thing with how we're examining at the PUB and the government's review of Dark NL or Blackout 2014 and all of the reliability issues, which would include this turbine and post-17 Muskrat Falls power. So I wonder will we get it.
I agree, Paddy, and that's what we need. We need more and more information. Now, Mr. Wells' committee is looking at Bill 29. Bill 29 is nothing. It's peanuts to what the real issue in this province has been for the last 2 or 3 or 4 years. The old issue was around secrecy. We had a government in power, totally secret over anything they were doing or spending our money.
Yeah, because Bill 29 doesn't even apply to Nalcor. People make that mistake all the time, too. The PCs want to spare themselves politically. It was a good move to bring the Auditor General into the Humber Valley paving issue, and it would be an equally wise move to bring the Auditor General in for the peace of mind of the taxpayer, the ratepayer, to have a good look at Nalcor and the entire Muskrat Falls project right from the get-go. Even if there's anything to hide, we needed to discovered and revealed. If there's nothing to hide, we need it documented by the independent body that is, and trustworthy office that is, the Auditor General. So if I had my druthers, not only as a concerned citizen, but if I was making decisions in government, I would do it, because I would want to dissuade or to tone down the rhetoric that is aimed at Nalcor, but the PC is treated like a political arm as opposed to a government crown corp, and that's going to be a huge problem for them to overcome. I'd put the AG in there right now.
Here. Boy, you made my day of listening to you, because your influence is quite big, quite huge around the province. It is, from the show you have there, and I'm glad you said it this morning, because I've been saying it for a number of years. And nobody is saying there's any wrongdoing. Nobody is ever saying that. All we need is the information so the people can determine themselves if anything is wrong or not. But if it's done by someone like the Auditor General, and I've talked to both Auditor Generals about this very topic. I talked to the one who resigned and went into politics, and I talked to the man, Mr. Patton, who's there now.
Yep.
But the only thing is, if the Auditor General goes in, he has to be asked to go in, and primarily by government, and then when he makes a report, guess what? It has to be initialed by Mr. Martin before it goes even to the Cabinet and the government. And then when it goes to the Cabinet and government, only them will decide if it goes public.
But we get Auditor General reports released in full all the time. And so we can only anticipate if it goes in for the protection of the ratepayer, and even if the government wants to treat it as a political exercise, it only has meaning and impact if it's done without any reservation or unnecessary hurdles or obstacles, and the report is released in full. That's all that will satisfy us, and that's all that we should, I think it's legitimate to request it. Jim, I gotta get to the break, but on this front, there is no secrecy available to different levels of government and or Nalcor at this day and age. We can indeed protect business interests and commercially sensitive areas with, redactions until contracts are settled and solved. All those things are meaningful and realistic. As a former cabinet minister, you understand that. But for the contracts that have been let, for the specifics of, whether it be Astaldi or small contractors, we should get to have a look, because I'm actually paying the bill. So there's nothing unrealistic there, and nor is it a condemnation of Martin and his team. It's a legitimate approach to the careful management of the money at a Crown Corp. No more, no less. It's not political. It's just realistic approach to being stewards of the provincial treasury, period.
You said it better than I could.
Jim, I appreciate your time.
Have a good day and have a good week, sir.
Same to you.
Take care. Bye-bye.